Okay, Katrina is asking, do you recommend getting business insurance right away? No, not right away. If you don't have any clients, there's no reason to have, insurance. And then if you have one client, you kind of got to think, do you need insurance for one client? That kind of thing. But as your business grows, I never tell anybody not to get insurance. Some people, including myself, have mixed emotions on insurance. I think a lot of insurances are scams, and in the 20 years I've been doing this, I've never needed insurance, not once. So it's just kind of one of those things. But yeah, I never steer anybody away from getting insurance, but you definitely don't, to answer your question, you definitely don't need it right in the beginning. Nobody's going to be suing you in the beginning. I've never been sued, so in 20 years, knock on wood. There's still an opportunity for that, but so far so good. And I mean, with bookkeeping, you're not doing it's not like auditing where you're signing off on these financials and you're putting your stamp on it. You're simply taking their data and putting it into software. Then if you get into more higher levels of bookkeeping where you're handling money and stuff like that, depositing checks for them, invoicing, doing payroll, that kind of stuff. If I was doing all that kind of stuff, I'd highly recommend insurance. But the lower level bookkeeping, like level 1 bookkeeping, I would say, your chance of, doing something that could get you sued is really small. And they'd have to show damages. What are the damages? Your books are messy, so that, they ask for their money back, kind of thing. Does that answer your question, Katrina? Hi, Stacy. How are you? Do you have a question? And Lillian, about getting clients, what all have you done so far? Hi, Kevin. If you have any questions, just put them in the comment section there. So to kind of get into the getting clients thing, it's really, and it's different for everybody. Like for me, I never joined a networking group, but I think people should join networking groups. I somehow was able to make it without it. But you definitely have to have the really good branding, the really good advertising. It doesn't need to be costly advertising, but if you have the really good branding, really good advertising, and you really diligent about getting, Craigslist ads out all the time, getting on Yelp, maybe LinkedIn, telling everybody you know. Maybe you don't need to be in a networking group, but I think networking groups, I've never heard anybody say that they've had a bad experience and not gotten clients by being in a networking group. It's just, for me, I never really enjoyed, that's basically why I went into business for myself, is because I didn't want to do all that corporate stuff, which a networking group, the ones I've seen when I first started out, they were very corporate-ish. And, everybody's dressed up. It's under the fluorescent lights. It's 7:00 in the morning kind of thing. And it just wasn't for me. But there are lots of different types of networking groups out now. So you could find one that would be, fit along with the things you like and dislike. Some meet at lunch, at a restaurant, there's those types. And so I definitely recommend, if you're not in a networking group, you should try it if everything else is not working for you. But you got to stay on those Craigslist ads. I'd have several going. I'd have at least probably one per week going. So that's $5 a week. And then as the weeks go by, you have some brand new ones and you have older ones, and the older ones drop off, but you're constantly putting on there. I say that because Craigslist has been so good to me, and it depends on where you are. But for me, Craigslist has worked so well. In fact, growing my business, I owe most of it to Craigslist, and then in the last couple of years, a lot of it's been Yelp, because I've just basically, my plate has been full for a while, for several years, and I just so I stopped posting on Craigslist in order to, just because I just didn't need any more business. But then I had my Yelp page established, and I would be getting business from Yelp. So definitely work both of those angles. All of those angles, I should say. Yep. Fine. So Lillian, I would say, from what you're saying so far, look for networking groups. Katrina, your course is teaching me so much and I'm really enjoying it, but I also noticed that a lot of people in this group have previous experience of some kind. Yep. I have none, so I feel like I don't know a lot of information. Knowledge and feeling. So, Katrina, it's really all about getting that first client. You just have to get that first client. So don't worry about what you know and don't know, and everything else. Just worry. Your goal should be, you should have one goal in mind right now, and that is to get that first client, because you're going to learn so much by working with that first client. Even if you have have a meeting and the meeting doesn't go well, you're going to learn so much during that. Like, I can't teach you that stuff. That's stuff that it's going to be a lot of internal stuff in your brain, dealing with the situation, dealing with your fears, dealing with how you said this and how you could have said this, and all of that stuff is really, really hard to teach. So really the goal is get that first client or get the first sit down, and it may take 5 different potential clients before you get get them on board as a client. But that's okay. You're going to learn so much through that. So your number one focus, now that you have a little bit of QuickBooks training, and is get that first client. Once you have that first client, you're going to learn a ton, and then you're going to be ready to get that second client and the third client, and then that's when you really start to learn a lot. So don't worry about everything else that's going on. Focus on just doing what you have to do to get that first client. After that, it starts to snowball and take care of itself. But that is the process, and it definitely works. But you can get sidetracked, and you can get discouraged and intimidated, and all that's because you're not working with it right now. You're thinking about working about it and worrying about working on it. But once you're actually in it, you have work to do, and you're trying to figure different things out. Then you're in it. You don't have to work. That'll be stuff of the past. You don't have to worry about it anymore, and you'll have new stuff to worry about. So hopefully that helps. Just remember, your goal is to get that first client. And then after that, things start taking care of themselves. So Stacy, how you find the networking group? Just Google your area networking group. So whatever city or town you're in, just start Googling networking groups. And you can also ask around if you have any friends that have businesses, but I would just Google it. if you're going to charge, so Kevin, if you're going to charge $150, $200 a month, it depends on where you live. $150, $200 a month where I live, it is really it's level 1 bookkeeping, where you're just taking the information that hits their bank and credit card statements and putting it into QuickBooks and reconciling it. That's all that would, and those are my favorite clients because they're small. I can knock those out in no time, and it's when it comes to like an hourly kind of thing, that's a really good rate because you're going to be able to do a couple of those in an hour when you get efficient. So that's what I would say, but it depends on where you live. If you live in a really low cost of living area, that might be a high, so you might have to include some other things, but so if Katrina, if you're going to be possibly moving, I would say to pick a more general name, but then again, you can have as many domain names as you want. You can you can literally have, say, 10 different domain names, have to redirect them to a general website. So for you could say you could have KW Bookkeeping or something general like that, and .com. So that could be your main website. And then you could have, city XYZ bookkeeping.com. You could have 10 of those. And they all don't go to their own individual website. They actually are just redirected to your KW Bookkeeping. That's one way to do it. So that way you can really market the area that you're in, and then if you do move, then you can, wherever you move, you can get a domain name for that area and have it redirected to your main page as well. So that's one way to do it. And that's probably, if you're thinking about moving, or it's quite possible that you will be moving, that's what I would do. I would either just stick with one general bookkeeping website and just run that one, or have one general one and then have different domain names that redirect to that. And I did that for a lot of years. Where I live on the coast, it's like I live right on the coast, so there's nothing west of me, and just straight north and south of me, I snagged all the domain names for those cities and bookkeeping and tax and that kind of thing. But I actually did have some websites set up for those as well, and logos, but they're all basically the same site, but I've discontinued that. But that's a little different than what I just told you. But you can have as many domain names as you want. You could have 100 domain names and just have them all pointed to one website. So how would we change our business name when we do move? Yeah, so that in that way you wouldn't have to, I think C is Sierra, right? If I remember correctly. Yeah, so if you just have like a general, so for me I have Chrysler Accounting, which Chrysler is my last name, accounting. That's my main website that will never go away, no matter where I moved, if I ever moved. But I have local ones that point to that. I think I only have maybe one or two right now that do. But actually they don't point to that. I'm sorry, they have their own website. But it's along the same thinking is you can have just one general website and have as many domain names as you want pointed to that general website. So it doesn't matter if you move. You just buy another domain name, which is about $10 to $13 a year. And within GoDaddy, there's a place where you can just redirect it. It redirects the DNS to, or the domain, whatever the lingo is, to your other website. Cool. Any other questions? If I missed one? And that's a good idea. That on that same topic, if you live in area that has a lot of cities around it, and you want to kind of cover them all, you could get a domain for each of those major cities, and then just have them all point to your generic one. You guys got to have more questions than that. I'm looking, I'm scrolling, see if I missed anything. Nope. All right, guys. Unless you have something you want to talk about, I'm gonna move on with my day. You guys should get back to work. Get a client. But you do have to check all those boxes. Try everything that's been recommended to get those clients. Because in your area, one thing may work better than in another area. So you really need to have, like, pretend you're fishing. You want to have like 5 poles in the water. Your ability to catch fish goes up, is 5 times as great. So, Kevin asked, how many clients did you have before you resigned your job? Well, so I don't remember. It was a long time ago. So it was in 2003 that I quit that job, but I'd been working on the side during that process. But then I also had plans to move too. So I moved from Illinois in 2003. I moved from Illinois to San Diego area. So it was, for me, it was a cutoff. So I had started my bookkeeping side job or hustle, whatever you want to call it, and I saw that it was doable and is something that I could build. Then I decided, okay, I really do not want to be in Illinois the rest of my life. Before I start really building something, I want to be where I want to be. So I made a decision just to cut ties with my staff accounting job and everything that I'd started to build and moved to California with nothing. So when I moved to California, it was quite an interesting thing, and I didn't know anybody here. I did move with a friend. I talked to a friend of mine who didn't have anything going on in his life either, so we jammed everything we had into my car and drove it out. And but neither of us had jobs when we got here. We got this really crappy place because cost of living is outrageous here, and it was a major shock. I had, it was one of those moments I said, "Oh no, what did I do?" But I just, through lots of fear, I just had to keep at it. I didn't want to go back to Illinois. And so I just started looking for jobs. And back then, the internet wasn't what it is today. It was, still newspapers. So I started just looking at the news in the newspaper all the time. And you can do this, but, in a different way now, electronically now. But I was looking for people looking for a bookkeeper, and so this is a good thing that you guys can do too, is you look for businesses looking for a part-time bookkeeper, and you can approach them about, one, you could actually try to get the job and actually go there and do it. You'd still learn a lot, and it's all in your mind. It's all temporary, right? You don't have to do that forever, but it's a good way to gain experience, and then you can, and still while you're building up your virtual bookkeeping clients, you can be working, a couple hours a day or week kind of thing in person. But that's what I did. I just started looking in the newspaper back then, and found a local business that was looking for a bookkeeper, and I started doing that. That was 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and it was all right because it was only 4 hours, and I was desperate. So I did that as I was building up my client base, and then eventually I just didn't need that, and so I dropped that. But that's a long-winded way of answering stories. That when I quit my job, I moved, so I didn't have anything, and I built it from zip. All right. Do I think it's a good idea to email local CPAs? Yeah, it does. Reaching out to people, being kind and being nice and saying hi and telling them what you're doing, and you're never gonna have a negative reaction to that. You're either gonna it's gonna be crickets. They're not gonna reply, or they're gonna say, sorry, we don't have anything. Any way to help you right now, but I'll keep you in mind. And you never know what can come of that down the line. So a year might go by and they say, oh, I remembered somebody, and then they remembered who they talked to, and then they send you a thing, and by then you have more experience. And so yeah, just you should be spending a lot of time reaching out to people in many different ways, and eventually you're gonna snag something. It's just the way it is. It's a numbers game. Everything is a numbers game. So the more you send out there, that's the numbers. The more you send out there, eventually, just the law of averages or percentages. There's going to be a percentage. If you send out 1,000 things, there's a percentage of responses that you're going to get. So the more the better. Hi Cheryl, thoughts on becoming an EA? Well, I think it's a good thing to have just for marketing, but I really don't know a lot about what an EA, the benefits of being an EA, because I've been a CPA this whole time. But I do think that as far as recognition by the average citizen, both CPA and EA are good things to have after your name. You don't have, I've said it 1,000 times before that it's not necessary, and most bookkeepers I know are really good at what they do and make good money, and they're neither CPAs or EAs. So it's not a necessary thing to succeed, but it's a good thing to have after your name. And I think that it does allow you to perform certain things that a non-EA can do, like maybe representation. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on EAs, so I'm not sure. Did I miss any questions? I thought I saw one fly by, and then for some reason I can't scroll to see it. So would I feel comfortable sharing how much I charge for business or individuals tax services? Yeah, I mean, again though, it's weird because my parents still live in Illinois, and I think they pay like $35. And they sit with the lady for like an hour. It's crazy. But here, in a higher cost of living area, and they vary. They depend on the complexity of the tax return. But like a simple tax return, probably lowest is around 2. I mean, if it's real simple and they're real easy to work with, and they just want to send me their W-2 or something and have me do their tax return, I would say $200. But $400 is real easy to get out here for a basic individual tax return. S corps, and so then it goes up from there. If they have rental properties and all kinds of stuff, different states, they can be. I have some that are in the well over $1,000, even $2,000 for individual tax return. Business tax returns, like a simple S corp, 675 kind of range. If I'm hungry at the time, I lower it to like 575. I always weigh in how difficult that person seems to work with. If there's going to be a lot of back and forth, all that is time and hassle, and so I quote higher, and then and by now I have a pretty good judge of how easy that person's going to be to work with. And so, yeah, it depends. And I do base my quote. I don't have just set quotes. Most people do, but I've never done that. I've always just gone by how I feel at the time. I know it's very non-professional of me, but that it's true. I've always just gauged by how much work I currently had, how if I was treading water already, I wouldn't even take calls, or I bid things much higher than if it's slower time of year and I have time and desire, then I quote something lower. So it depends. But the biggest factor is where you live and what other people are charging in your area. So, so if you could get a handle on what other people are charging, that would be good. And you can even maybe call them and just ask, well, how much do you charge for a simple S corp, or how much do you charge for individual tax return with 2 W-2s, or a couple 1099s and stuff like that. So Katrina, could we make it a business to strictly clean up businesses' books? You as in only doing that? Yeah, I mean you could, but you'd be cutting yourself out of a lot of work, a lot of additional paying work. But you could market that. That's an idea of something that you could market. But what you actually do is that and other stuff. Because you get it all cleaned up, why wouldn't you want to do it each month going forward? So, but that's good. That takes a higher level of like taking over somebody's books or starting books fresh with a new company. It takes one skill set. Cleaning up somebody's books takes a higher level of problem solving and experience with the software and accounting, bookkeeping experience. So I wouldn't start with that. Your ideal first client would be one where it's a service-based company, very simple, low amount of transactions. They have one bank account, one credit card, maybe. Just something very simple. They don't have a lot going on. That's your ideal first client for you, since you don't have the experience yet. But eventually you could get into higher level stuff, which cleanup work can require much higher level of experience, because you gotta doing things right yourself is way easier than trying to figure out how somebody messed up something and then fixing it. So that's a much higher level of experience. How should we prepare for a potential new client? What form should I have them sign? And what does the typical onboarding process entail? So my philosophy on that is none of the above, but other people, and Cheryl I think has some good, check the files directory on the left hand side. I think Cheryl has some good stuff in there that can help answer that. But for me, I don't, it's easy for me to say that do nothing. And it's just because I've been doing it for so long. But you have time to think about all that other stuff, like what you should be doing. But for me, I've never had them sign anything, no contracts ever. As long as I want to work with them and they want to work with me, we work together. And Cheryl's saying to PM her if you want more specifics. Cheryl's a great resource for that. So please utilize that. But yeah, I never wanted to be in a contract with somebody because then I might be locked in with somebody that I don't care to work with. And then it could go the other way as well. They feel like they're locked in to work with me, and if they don't want to work with me. So I've never done contracts and never will. I just keep it really, really, really simple. It's just talk to them, to find out what their needs are. And there's videos on the YouTube channel about this, but it's just a matter of finding out where they currently are, if things are messed up, how long they've been messed up, finding your starting point, cleaning things up if you need to clean them up, or just carrying on if they're squared away already. It's that simple. we can make it way more complicated than that, but that is it. Yeah, contracts. So, and I never have. I mean, not never, but I rarely have people say, "Do you have a contract? Do we need a contract or have a contract?" That rarely comes up. So I don't even think most people think about that. Anything else? I hope everybody had a good holiday season. Or having one. Lots of weather coming around, going around. We had rain for 3 days, which for us is a really big deal. So the mountains got a lot of snow. So I think next weekend I'm taking my son up. Yeah, so Cheryl's got a good point about the payment authorization. And I think what she's referring to about that is that where it's getting them to authorize you to, instead of invoicing them each month and waiting for them to pay your bill, you have authorization to just take their money once a month. I like that. I've never done that, and I really like the idea. Yeah. But I still invoice every month, and I hate it, even though it doesn't take very long. And it's how I make money, by invoicing, so I shouldn't hate it so much. But the first of every month, when I have to invoice all my clients, I'm like, ugh. But anyways. I'm busy. I'm too busy to learn new tricks, right? Yeah. I'm learning something, I'm for sure, every day. Okay. Any other questions? Well, thanks for being such a good group, and let's do this again next week. Think of questions along the way. And those of you that have something coming up this week, good luck. Just remain calm. Just try to relax. I know it's easy for me to say, but just be yourself, and know that as long as you're putting effort into this, it will happen. Just keep trying, keep putting as many lines in the water as you can, and it will happen. And if you have your first sit-down meeting with somebody this week and it doesn't go well, you're still gonna learn a ton from it. So I practice jujitsu, and one of the biggest sayings is if you what is the saying? If you win, great, something like that. But if you lose, you learn, and it does apply to this too. Like you're gonna you learn so much. I don't know if that even works here. Because if you win, you get the client, and you're gonna learn anyways. And if you don't, you're gonna learn so much about the process that you went through, and what you did right and what you could have done better, that kind of thing. So it's you're winning no matter what. I guess that's the point I was trying to make, is that you're going to win no matter what. Just keep at it, whether you get the client or not. You're winning. You learn something, so that next time you know what to possibly change, and then maybe you did everything right and you still didn't get it, and that's okay, because it hinges on the client as well. So, but it's the numbers game. Always keep that in mind, that it's a numbers game. Hang out long enough, put in the work long enough, and you'll get clients. All right. So since I don't see any other questions, everybody have a great day, and I'll talk to you next week. All right. Goodbye.